The maintenance shift aboard Deep Space Research Station Galileo's Dream was supposed to be quiet, which was exactly why Alex Rivera had volunteered for it. After 3 weeks of coordinating supply deliveries and mediating disputes between the xenobiology and astrophysics departments, he was looking forward to 8 hours of nothing but routine systems checks and the gentle hum of the station's fusion cores. The emergency docking alert changed all of that. "Attention station personnel," came the announcement from the automated systems, "unscheduled vessel requesting emergency docking at Bay 7. Vessel appears to be of non-human origin." Alex sighed and pulled up the external camera feeds on his workstation. The ship limping toward their docking bay was unlike anything in the human technological database, sleek and organic looking, with hull plating that seemed to shift color as he watched. More importantly, it was trailing plasma from what appeared to be a severely damaged navigation array. "Computer, prep Bay 7 for emergency docking," he said, already pulling on his environmental suit. "And send a message to Dr. Santos that we might have our first alien visitor." The pilot who emerged from the damaged scout ship was definitely not human, though she was humanoid enough that Alex didn't immediately panic. She stood about his height, with pale blue skin that seemed to have a subtle luminescent quality, and large dark eyes that dominated her delicate features. Her hair was white as starlight and perfectly straight, falling to her shoulders in a way that suggested either genetic uniformity or very precise personal grooming. "Greetings," she said in accented but perfectly understandable English, her voice carrying musical harmonics that made Alex think of wind chimes. "I am Kiratel of the Vorthan Confederation. My vessel has suffered critical navigation failure. I request temporary sanctuary and repair assistance." "Absolutely," Alex replied, gesturing toward his repair equipment. "I'm Alex Rivera, Station Tech Specialist. Let's take a look at what's wrong with your ship." The next 4 hours passed in a blur of technical diagnostics and increasingly creative engineering solutions. Kiratel's ship used quantum navigation principles that were fascinating but completely alien to human technology. However, Alex had always been good at finding ways to make incompatible systems work together, and the Vorthan woman proved to be an excellent assistant despite their species differences. "Your repair methodology is highly unconventional," Kiratel observed as Alex jury-rigged a temporary interface between her quantum processor and the station's navigation computer. "Yet it appears to be effective." "That's the human way," Alex replied, grinning as the systems finally achieved stable integration. "We specialize in solutions that shouldn't work but somehow do." "Curious," Kiratel said, tilting her head in a way that reminded Alex of a bird studying something particularly interesting. "Your species approaches problems without adherence to established protocols." "Sometimes the established protocols are wrong," Alex explained, running final diagnostics on her repaired systems. "Or sometimes they're right but incomplete. The trick is knowing when to follow the rules and when to break them." Kiratel processed this information with the serious attention of someone filing it away for future reference. "I must study human problem-solving techniques. They may prove valuable for Vorthan engineering applications." "You're welcome to observe while I work," Alex said, oddly charmed by her earnest curiosity. "Though I should warn you, most of what I do is held together by caffeine, stubbornness, and spare parts." "Caffeine?" "It's a mild stimulant we extract from certain plants. Helps humans stay alert and focused." Alex gestured toward the coffee maker he'd installed in the corner of the maintenance bay. "Would you like to try some?" "I would be interested in experiencing human nutritional customs," Kiratel replied formally. Alex prepared 2 cups of coffee, adding sugar and milk to his own while leaving hers black. "Fair warning, it's an acquired taste. Most humans need time to adjust to the bitterness." Kiratel accepted the cup with careful precision and took a small sip. Her large eyes widened slightly, and she made a sound that might have been surprise or distress. "Too strong?" Alex asked, trying not to laugh at her expression. "The flavor profile is complex," she said diplomatically, taking another cautious sip. "Is this beverage consumed primarily for nutritional value or social bonding purposes?" "Honestly, Mostly for the caffeine. But it's also a social thing. Humans tend to gather around food and drink when we want to connect with each other. Alex found himself smiling at her systematic approach to understanding coffee. You know, you'd make a cute wife, always asking the important questions about meals and nutrition. The moment the words left his mouth, Alex realized he'd made some kind of mistake. Kiratel went completely still, her cup frozen halfway to her lips, and her dark eyes fixed on his face with laser intensity. Alex Rivera, she said slowly, her voice carrying new harmonics that seemed to resonate in the metal walls around them, do you speak these words with intentional meaning? Alex felt heat rising in his cheeks as he realized his casual comment had been interpreted as something far more serious than he'd intended. It was just a joke, Kiratel. Humans say things like that casually, we don't always mean. You offered the bond of companionship, she interrupted, setting down her coffee cup with precise, ritualistic movements. You expressed desire for shared domesticity and nutritional planning. By the customs of my people, such an offer, when made directly and witnessed by the void itself, constitutes a formal bonding proposal. Alex stared at her, his brain struggling to process what he was hearing. Bonding proposal? Kiratel stood with fluid grace, her posture shifting into something that looked almost ceremonial. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of profound decision. I accept. The maintenance bay fell silent except for the gentle hum of the repaired navigation systems and the sound of Alex's coffee cup hitting the deck as it slipped from his suddenly nerveless fingers. Kiratel, he said weakly, I think we need to talk. Dr. Santos to Maintenance Bay 7, came the cheerful voice over the comm system. Alex, I heard we have a visitor, and I'm dying to meet our first alien contact. Please tell me they're friendly and not planning to dissect us for science. Alex looked at Kiratel, who was still standing in what appeared to be a formal acceptance pose, her dark eyes focused on him with unwavering intensity. Elena, could you come down here? We have a situation that's a little outside my expertise. Ooh, mysterious, Dr. Elena Santos's voice carried barely contained excitement. I'll be right there with my xenobiology kit and my best diplomatic smile. Kiratel, Alex said carefully, while we're waiting for Dr. Santos, could you explain what exactly happens now that you've accepted? The bonding acceptance has been registered by my bioimplants, she replied, touching a small device behind her ear that Alex had assumed was some kind of communication equipment. The Vorthan High Council will receive notification within the next standard hour. They will expect formal confirmation and documentation of the union within one planetary cycle. Union, Alex repeated faintly. As in marriage? The human term, marriage, appears analogous to our bonding customs, yes. Though Vorthan bonding encompasses legal, social, economic, and biological partnerships that may be more comprehensive than human matrimonial traditions. Alex sat down heavily on a nearby crate. Kiratel, I need you to understand something. When humans make jokes about marriage or bonding, we don't usually mean them literally. It's a form of social interaction called humor that involves saying things we don't necessarily intend as factual statements. Kiratel's expression shifted to something that might have been confusion. You spoke words of bonding intention without actual intention to bond. Exactly. This seems inefficient, she said after a moment. Why would your species develop communication patterns that convey false information? Before Alex could attempt to explain the complexities of human humor, Dr. Santos burst through the maintenance bay doors with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been waiting her entire career for this moment. Alex, you beautiful man, please tell me you haven't accidentally started an interstellar incident while I was organizing my xenobiology samples, she said, then stopped dead as she took in the scene. Oh my. You must be our alien visitor. I'm Dr. Elena Santos, xenobiologist and apparently humanity's first contact specialist by default. I am Kiratel of the Vorthan Confederation, Kiratel replied, inclining her head in what appeared to be a formal greeting. I have recently accepted a bonding proposal from Alex Rivera. Elena's eyes went wide. What now? I made a joke about her being a good wife, Alex explained miserably. Apparently, that counts as a marriage proposal in Vorthan culture. And you accepted? Elena asked Kiratel, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomacy. The proposal was direct and unambiguous, Kiratel confirmed. By Vorthan law, formal acceptance creates a legally binding commitment that affects not only the individuals involved but their respective clans, territories, and trade relationships. Elena sat down next to Alex on the crate. Alex, I think you've just become humanity's first accidental interspecies diplomat. This is not how I plan to spend my maintenance shift, Alex said, putting his head in his hands. Perhaps, Kiratel suggested hesitantly, you could explain the human concept of humor more fully. I wish to understand why your species uses false statements for social bonding purposes. Alex looked up at her earnest expression and felt something unexpected, not panic, but a strange kind of warmth. It's not exactly false statements. Humor is more about exaggeration, or saying things that are partially true in an unexpected way to create amusement. So when you said I would make a cute wife, you were expressing partial truth? Well. Alex found himself really looking at Kiratel for the first time, taking in her graceful movements, her obvious intelligence, and the way she approached every new concept with genuine curiosity. I mean, you are attractive, and you do ask thoughtful questions about practical things. I guess, maybe it wasn't entirely a joke. Elena made a sound that was suspiciously close to a squeal of delight. Alex, are you actually considering this? Because from a xenobiological perspective, this could be the most important cultural exchange in human history. Elena, I've known her for 4 hours, Alex protested. How long does courtship typically last in human culture? Kiratel asked, her head tilted in that bird-like way again. It varies, Elena replied before Alex could answer. Anywhere from weeks to years, depending on the individuals involved. Inefficient, Kiratel observed. Vorthan bonding decisions are made based on compatibility assessments that can be completed within a single interaction cycle. Prolonged uncertainty serves no practical purpose. Alex found himself smiling despite the surreal situation. You really do think like an engineer. Everything has to have a practical purpose. Is this incorrect? Not incorrect, Alex said, just different from how humans usually approach relationships. We tend to make decisions based on emotions as much as logic. Kiratel considered this. Your emotional decision-making process led you to suggest bonding with me. My logical assessment led me to accept. Perhaps our approaches are more compatible than initially apparent. Elena was now openly grinning. I love her. Alex, if you don't marry this woman, I will personally throw you out an airlock. Elena. What? She's brilliant, she appreciates your engineering skills, she's already analyzed your compatibility, and she's probably the most exotic girlfriend you're ever going to have the chance to not completely mess up. Kiratel looked between them with growing understanding. Dr. Santos advocates for the bonding to proceed? Absolutely, Elena replied. Though we should probably figure out the legal implications before the Vorthan government starts expecting wedding invitations. Alex's personal communicator chose that moment to chime with an incoming priority message. The holographic display showed the stern features of Commander Patricia Hayes, the station's commanding officer. Rivera, I need you in my office immediately, she said. We've just received a diplomatic communication from something called the Vorthan High Council, and your name keeps coming up in what appears to be marriage negotiations. Please tell me you have a reasonable explanation for this. Alex looked at Kiratel, who was watching him with those large dark eyes, then at Elena, who was practically vibrating with scientific excitement. Commander Hayes, he said with a sigh, I think you're going to want to sit down for this explanation. Commander Hayes's office had never felt smaller than it did with 6 humans, 1 Vorthan, and Ambassador Threndal of the Vorthan Diplomatic Corps all trying to occupy the same space. The ambassador was tall even by Vorthan standards, his pale blue skin marked with intricate patterns that Elena whispered indicated high social rank, and his presence filled the room with an aura of barely contained diplomatic crisis. "Let me ensure I understand this correctly," Ambassador Threndal said, his accented English carrying harmonics of profound disbelief. Tech specialist Rivera made an offhand comment about domestic compatibility. Kiratel interpreted this as a formal bonding proposal according to Vorthan custom, and now we have an accidental interspecies engagement that has already been registered with our High Council. That's pretty much exactly what happened, Alex admitted, acutely aware that his maintenance uniform was probably not appropriate diplomatic attire. Fascinating, the ambassador murmured, his large eyes studying Alex with the intensity of someone examining a particularly unusual specimen. In 3,000 years of Vorthan civilization, no one has ever accidentally triggered a bonding acceptance through casual conversation. "We specialize in the impossible," Commander Hayes said dryly. "The question is, what are the legal and political ramifications of this situation?" Ambassador Threndal consulted a device that projected complex holographic text in what Alex assumed was the Vorthan language. "Significant, I'm afraid. Kiratel belongs to the technical caste, third tier, which means her bonding choices require approval from the High Council and affect trade relationships with her family's associated guilds." "What kind of trade relationships?" Elena asked, her xenobiologist's curiosity overriding diplomatic caution. "The technical caste controls approximately 30% of our quantum engineering output," Threndal replied. "They also maintain the navigation networks that allow safe passage through the Vorthan sectors of space. A bonding alliance with a human could theoretically grant your species access to technologies and territories that have never been available to non-Vorthans." Commander Hayes sat up straighter. "Are you saying this accidental engagement could affect humanity's relationship with your entire confederation?" "Precisely," the ambassador confirmed. "Which is why the High Council has dispatched me to conduct a formal compatibility assessment and, if necessary, negotiate a dissolution of the bonding contract without causing offense to either species." Alex glanced at Kiratel, who had been sitting quietly throughout the discussion but was now showing signs of what might have been distress. Her luminescent skin had taken on a slightly dimmer quality, and her perfectly straight posture had developed a subtle slump. "Kiratel," he said gently, "are you all right?" "I am experiencing what humans might term embarrassment," she replied, her voice lacking its earlier musical quality. "My impulsive acceptance of your bonding proposal has created diplomatic complications. Perhaps dissolution would be the most logical course of action." Something about the resigned sadness in her voice made Alex's chest tighten with unexpected emotion. "What if I don't want dissolution?" The room fell silent. Ambassador Threndal's eyebrows rose in a gesture that apparently transcended species barriers, while Commander Hayes looked like she was mentally calculating the political ramifications of humanity's first interspecies marriage. "Alex," Elena said carefully, "are you sure about this? I mean, I think Kiratel is wonderful, but you've known each other for less than a day." "I've known her for 6 hours," Alex corrected, "and in that time, she's helped me solve engineering problems I've been struggling with for weeks. She's shown genuine interest in understanding human culture, and she makes me laugh even when she doesn't mean to." He looked directly at Kiratel. "Maybe that's not enough time for humans to make bonding decisions, but maybe humans are wrong about needing years of uncertainty." Kiratel's skin brightened visibly. "You would accept the complications that bonding with a Vorthan would create?" "I would accept the opportunity to get to know someone who thinks repairing quantum navigation systems counts as a fun way to spend an afternoon," Alex replied, surprised by his own certainty. Ambassador Threndal made a sound that might have been Vorthan laughter. "Tech specialist Rivera, you may be the first human to understand what Vorthans actually find attractive in potential partners." "Which is?" Commander Hayes asked. "Competence," Threndal replied simply. "Shared technical interests, compatible problem-solving approaches, and mutual appreciation of logical thinking. Romantic emotion is less emphasized in our bonding traditions." "That explains a lot," Elena muttered, then addressed the ambassador directly. "What would a formal bonding ceremony require?" Both parties would need to demonstrate practical compatibility through a series of collaborative challenges, Threndal explained. If successful, they would participate in a bonding ritual that combines elements from both cultures to create a legally recognized union. And if unsuccessful? Alex asked. Then the bonding contract is dissolved with honor intact for both parties, the ambassador replied. Though I should mention that Kiritel's initial acceptance suggests she has already conducted her own compatibility assessment and found the results favorable. All eyes turned to Kiritel, who had been following the conversation with typical Vorthan intensity. Alex Rivera demonstrates superior technical abilities, approaches problems with creative logic, and shows respect for different cultural perspectives, she said formally. He also has an aesthetically pleasing facial structure and appears to maintain good personal hygiene. Elena barely managed to turn her burst of laughter into a cough. Well, that's certainly thorough. There is one additional factor to consider, Ambassador Threndal continued. If the bonding proceeds, Alex would become the first human to gain full Vorthan citizenship rights, including access to our educational institutions, technology databases, and colonial worlds. Conversely, Kiritel would gain human citizenship and the freedom to explore emotional expression patterns that Vorthan society typically discourages. Emotional expression patterns? Alex asked. Vorthans are taught from childhood to suppress spontaneous emotional responses in favor of logical decision-making, Threndal explained. However, bonding with a human might allow Kiritel to explore aspects of her personality that have been constrained by our cultural expectations. Alex looked at Kiritel, seeing her in a new light. You mean you've been holding back who you really are? Not holding back, she corrected. Simply channeling all emotional energy into logical frameworks. But observing your casual humor and spontaneous responses has been illuminating. In what way? For the first time since he'd met her, Kiritel smiled, not the polite expression she'd worn during their technical discussions, but something warm and genuine that transformed her entire face. I find myself curious about what it would be like to laugh without analyzing the logical purpose of laughter, she said softly. Alex felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. Kiritel, would you like to find out? Yes, she replied immediately. I would like that very much. Commander Hayes cleared her throat. Well, this is either going to be the most successful diplomatic accident in human history or the most expensive mistake we've ever made. Ambassador Threndal, what do we need to do to make this official? The compatibility challenges turned out to be less like romantic trials and more like the world's most comprehensive technical interview, conducted in zero gravity while being observed by representatives from both species' governments. Alex found himself genuinely enjoying the experience, particularly when he and Kiritel had to collaboratively repair a malfunctioning fusion reactor using only spare parts and theoretical physics. Your approach to quantum containment field optimization is highly unconventional, Kiritel observed as they worked together in the station's engineering lab, yet it achieved superior efficiency ratings compared to standard Vorthan methodologies. Your systematic analysis prevents me from making the stupid mistakes that usually blow up in my face, Alex replied, carefully calibrating the containment field while she monitored the quantum flux readings. We make a pretty good team. Indeed, Ambassador Threndal noted from his observation post. Your collaborative efficiency rating exceeds that of most established Vorthan bonding pairs. Dr. Elena Santos, who had appointed herself official chronicler of what she called humanity's most adorable diplomatic incident, grinned from behind her recording equipment. Alex, you do realize you're going to be famous throughout two civilizations as the guy who accidentally proposed to an alien and then made it work? I'm trying not to think about that part, Alex said, though he was smiling. I'm more interested in the part where Kiritel and I figure out how to build things together that neither of us could manage alone. The final challenge required them to design a theoretical spacecraft that could serve both human exploration needs and Vorthan technical requirements. Alex watched Kiritel work through the engineering specifications with systematic precision, while he contributed creative solutions to problems she identified with logical analysis. You know, he said as they put the finishing touches on their design, I think my joke about you being a good wife was more accurate than I realized. In what way? Kiratel asked, though he noticed her skin had taken on a slightly brighter luminescence. You balance my chaotic creativity with structured thinking, Alex explained. You ask the right questions when I'm too excited about an idea to consider the consequences. And you make me want to be better at what I do. These are practical compatibility factors, Kiratel agreed. But there are also non-practical considerations. Such as? For the first time since he'd known her, Kiratel seemed to struggle with words. I find myself pleased by your presence. Your humor creates positive emotional responses that I do not fully understand but wish to experience more frequently. And when you smile at me, I experience what I believe humans call happiness. Alex felt his heart do that complicated thing again. Kiratel, I think what you're describing is affection. Affection, she repeated, as if testing the word. Is this an acceptable basis for human bonding? It's probably the best basis, Alex replied, reaching for her hand. Her skin was warm and carried a subtle electric tingle that made him think of quantum fields. Kiratel, I know this started as an accident, but I don't want it to be just an accident anymore. Nor do I, she said softly. I wish to explore this, affection, and discover what other emotional experiences are possible when one bonds with someone who makes quantum physics amusing. I make quantum physics amusing? Alex asked, delighted. When you explained containment field dynamics using an analogy involving earth cats and furniture destruction, I experienced what I believe was the urge to laugh, Kiratel admitted. It was enjoyable. Ambassador Threndal cleared his throat. If I may interrupt this moment, your compatibility scores have exceeded all minimum requirements for formal bonding. The High Council has approved the union, and we are prepared to proceed with the ceremony whenever you are ready. The bonding ceremony itself was a fascinating blend of human and Vorthan traditions, held in the station's observation lounge with Earth visible through the main viewport. Alex wore his best dress uniform while Kiratel appeared in traditional Vorthan ceremonial robes that made her skin glow like starlight. The ritual involved exchanging technical specifications, a custom that Elena found absolutely hilarious until she realized it was actually incredibly romantic in its own way. I offer you my knowledge of quantum engineering principles, Kiratel said formally, and my commitment to collaborative problem solving for the duration of our shared existence. I offer you my expertise in creative engineering solutions, Alex replied, trying to match her formality while fighting back laughter, and my promise to make you laugh at least once per day for as long as we're together. These vows are highly irregular, Ambassador Threndal noted, but they appear to satisfy both species' requirements for formal bonding commitments. Commander Hayes, serving as human officiant, smiled. By the authority vested in me by the United Earth Government and apparently the Vorthan High Council, I now pronounce you bonded partners in the eyes of both our peoples. The celebration afterward was unlike anything the station had ever hosted, with human crew members attempting to understand Vorthan ceremonial music while Vorthans tried to grasp the concept of wedding cake. Alex found himself watching Kiratel experience her first taste of chocolate with scientific fascination that gradually gave way to something approaching joy. This substance creates complex neurochemical responses, she observed, taking another bite. I believe I understand why humans associate it with celebration. Wait until you try ice cream, Elena said, grinning. I give it 2 weeks before you're as addicted to sugar as the rest of us. 6 months later, Alex stood in the joint research facility that had been constructed specifically to house human Vorthan collaborative projects, watching his wife, and he still got a thrill from thinking that word, demonstrate a new quantum communication array to a mixed team of human and Vorthan engineers. The integration of human creative thinking with Vorthan systematic analysis, she was saying, has resulted in efficiency improvements of approximately 43% over previous single-species designs. Dr. Santos joined him at the observation window. Any regrets about accidentally proposing to an alien? Only that it took me so long to realize I meant it, Alex replied, watching Kiratel explain complex quantum principles with the enthusiasm of someone who had discovered that teaching could be as enjoyable as learning. She's brilliant, she's funny in ways she doesn't even realize, and she makes me want to build impossible things just to see if we can figure them out together. And the emotional exploration project? Alex grinned. Yesterday she laughed so hard at one of my engineering disasters that she couldn't speak for 5 minutes. Last week she cried at a movie about a robot learning to love, and this morning I caught her humming while she worked on quantum equations. Sounds like the Vorthen High Council got more than they bargained for when they approved this bonding, Elena observed. We both did, Alex agreed, watching Kiritel notice his presence and break into the smile that still made his heart skip beats. But sometimes the best discoveries are the ones you stumble into by accident. Kiritel finished her demonstration and approached them, her movements now carrying a warmth and spontaneity that would have been unthinkable when they first met. Husband, she said, the human term still carrying slight traces of Vorthen formality, I have completed the presentation. Would you like to review the technical specifications, or shall we proceed directly to the celebratory consumption of chocolate? Definitely chocolate, Alex replied, taking her hand. But first, tell me something. What would you like to know? Do you ever regret accepting my accidental proposal? Kiritel considered the question with typical Vorthen thoroughness. I regret that we wasted several hours on diplomatic complications when we could have been conducting further compatibility assessments, she said finally. But I do not regret the bonding itself. You have taught me that logic and emotion are not incompatible forces, but complementary systems that function optimally when properly integrated. Alex laughed, pulling her into a hug that she returned with increasing expertise. Kiritel, you just described love using engineering terminology. Is this incorrect? No, Alex said, kissing her forehead. It's perfect. You're perfect. I am not perfect, she corrected seriously. But I am perfectly compatible with you, which appears to be functionally equivalent. And as they headed off to share chocolate and review quantum specifications, the two activities having become equally important parts of their daily routine, Alex reflected that sometimes the most meaningful relationships began with the words you never meant to say but turned out to be exactly what needed to be heard.